Super. Thank you, Stacy. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alan Najar, Smith and Howard, and I'm honored to serve as your chamber's chair this year. So welcome to the September Chairman's Circle exclusive event, and thank you for joining us for this virtual gathering. We do owe you a lunch in person, and hopefully we'll be able to do that one day soon. Your investment in the Greater North Fulton Chamber means everything to us, and I can't thank you enough for your sponsorship and your contributions so that we can remain meaningful, relevant, and essential. It's because of your investment, your chamber has top-notch chamber talent and technology, and the combination of those two kept us from missing a beat 6 months ago when Governor Kemp put the gavel down and said, everybody go work from home. So I couldn't be more proud of Callie Boatwright and her team of dedicated staff professionals that have kept your chamber running without a hitch. So we do miss seeing everybody in person, but as I've said to a couple of you before, some of the advantages of these virtual lunches are pretty neat because everybody gets to sit at the head table. You're directly in front of the speaker. You don't have to take notes because the chamber's recording this for you. Your private restroom is just around the corner, and it doesn't take long to get out of the parking lot after the meeting's over. So on today's call, just to keep it somewhat manageable, please keep your microphone on mute so we can avoid any unnecessary background noise as we have Matthew's presentation. And if you have a question for our presenter, please use the chat feature. Stacy Garman, who's your Chairman's Club Coordinator, will address the questions at the end of the presentation and get to as many of them as time will allow. Our presenter today is my longtime friend, Matthew Shepard, who's the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Delta Community Credit Union. This significant financial institution has 29 locations around the 15-county metro area and 3 out-of-state locations. They've got a fortress balance sheet that exceeds $7 billion in assets, over 1,100 employees, and pretty significant. Stacy didn't put this in my notes, but I happen to know it. This is Delta's 80th year in business. So Matthew, I hope I didn't steal any of your thunder, but that's pretty impressive. So Matthew's responsibilities include developing and executing marketing, member service, and community investment. He oversees the management and the competitiveness of products and services, their delivery channels, which include online banking and mobile banking platforms. So as we continue our workforce series, Matthew will share his insights into the unique challenges and opportunities that this global healthcare crisis has presented to us, and he'll cover some things that are really important to all of us, but the value of a comprehensive business continuity plan, a strategic investment in technology, what they're doing to prepare for the new normal after this pandemic, whatever that winds up being. And they spend an awful lot of good time on employee engagement and customer service. So Matthew, my longtime friend from many years ago, thank you for joining us today. The microphone is yours, sir.
Great. Thank you so much, Alan. It's really a pleasure, just a privilege to be here. Very grateful for the opportunity. Have so much respect for Alan and just the years that we worked around one another, and also just so much respect for this group's mission and its efforts just with the work-life experience in North Fulton. I spent a decade of my career in an office on or near North Point. So certainly know the North Fulton area very well. Delta Community is very committed to it as well in helping you guys as you work on the work-life experience there. Just the goal of my presentation, just really want to share kind of Delta Community's experience managing through the pandemic and just some of the longer-term paradigm shifts we see, some of the implications we see for the future. Again, I don't profess to be right. This is just kind of our experience. Hopefully it's helpful to you, just provide you some insights into the challenges that we have and kind of how we're meeting those challenges. I very much get my energy from the group, so I would love to keep this conversational just as I move through the slides. I've got 6 slides, just different topics, welcome questions after each slide, and as I said, would love to keep it conversational. I've asked Stacy to keep me on time so I don't extend beyond that 1 o'clock hour, but again, would love to engage you all in a dialogue. so I can learn from you as well. I'm going to share my screen here. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
So I wanted to start just with a profile of Delta Community. Alan did a great job just in giving a good summary of our business. I wanted to start here not as an ad or a blatant plug, just really wanted to offer a better understanding of our business and kind of our critical operations to give you some insight into what we need to keep going just in maintaining operations. Delta Community is a not-for-profit, member-owned financial institution. We really, our primary services, what I call bread and butter banking, just with savings and checking, just with transactional accounts. About more than 70% of our membership really see us as their primary financial institution, really relying on the credit union to manage their personal finances, just with their monthly household expenses. Certainly do a lot around consumer lending, just with Visa, with auto, also a lot with mortgage lending as far as residential lending, and also have commercial banking services, both commercial deposit services and lending services, really focus more on that small business owner. If you know anything about credit unions, we do have membership eligibility requirements. You must qualify for membership to be part of Delta Community. Delta Community was founded by 8 Delta Airlines mechanics that all contributed $5 a piece back in 1940. And for the better part of our history, we served the Delta employee base exclusively. In the early aughts, just after 9/11, just as there was a lot of consolidation in the airline industry, our board, in keeping the credit union a going concern, just really looked at diversifying, just in making certain that we were here for those Delta employees, Delta retirees. We began to broaden our field of membership. And so we added counties to the field of membership. So today, if you live in one of 14 Metro Atlanta counties, live or work in one of 14 Metro Atlanta counties, you are eligible to join Delta Community. Delta Community is Georgia's largest credit union. As Alan said, we have more than $7 billion in assets. We have more than 425,000 members. We have 1,140 employees today. Of those 1,140 employees, 365 work on the front line in our branches, and we have 29 branch locations. With those 29 branch locations, 3 of those are out of state, just with Cincinnati, Dallas, and Salt Lake City, Delta hubs. And we are preparing to open a branch in Cumming in the 4th quarter. And we have another branch under development in Douglasville that will open in the 1st quarter of 2021. I really believe we've been able to respond to the current challenges just to the pandemic very well. We were able to respond very quickly and very effectively, and I credit that really to our investments in business continuity planning. I've been with the credit union since 2007. I was really brought in to help retail the credit union as the credit union was broadening out its field of membership. When I was privileged to be appointed Chief Operating Officer in 2013, honestly, my very first call was to the head of loss prevention that was overseeing Delta Community's business continuity planning program, and really reached out to her to say, I want to make certain as COO, I'm very involved, that I'm really chairing the steering committee, because for me, in the role as COO, it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when, and really knowing that we had an obligation to maintain services, operations for our members. So I wanted to make certain that I was very involved with business continuity planning and that it had executive support, and we really took it very, very seriously. We have a formal program. That formal program was really begun in 2008, just from an enterprise approach. We do have a written business continuity plan. There's an administrative overlay, and it's a compilation of divisional plans. So each division has its own business continuity plan, and it is the compilation of all of those plans that is our crisis management plan. We have a steering committee that oversees BCP, and you'll see on my screen just the participants in that steering committee. And the steering committee meets quarterly just to review where we are with BCP, just ongoing governance with BCP. And also we have annual exercises just with BCP. And these are really scenario planning, just in really knowing our business, the types of challenges that we might have to contend with. So with those annual exercises, there are divisional exercises and an enterprise exercise. So with the divisional exercises, just with each division, they're either on an annual or every other year schedule for their exercise, depending on their operations and the services that they provide consumers. But each year we do an enterprise exercise, and with that enterprise exercise, we bring our full leadership team into our conference center, and then we will go through a drill, a scenario, and it's multi-phased. So with the leadership team, our leadership team is comprised of the 10 executive leaders, as well as 42 additional senior leaders, AVP up to SVP. And so we bring them into the conference center, and our risk management group that facilitates the exercise will run us through a drill, and it is multi-phased. So there will be several different stages of the drill where it gets progressively worse, and you have to kind of contend with it. We never know what the scenario is going to be. They always keep that under wraps. And so you go in, these leaders with their divisional plans, and then they're really reacting to what the test is, making certain that their plan really does contemplate some of the challenges that might come from that scenario. And after the scenario, then we're able to go back and really update those plans. If there's anything that we've identified, then we're able to make revisions and really strengthen those plans. We've been doing that for more than 12 years. I've participated in more than 12 of those enterprise exercises. In 2018, we actually did a pandemic. So the scenario was a pandemic. And so we really had to kind of work through high absenteeism, some other challenges through that. So that is something that we had gone through and really thought through. Part of those annual tests as well are system failovers. Those actually occur more regularly, but just with IT as part of the BCP, just with our core systems and having full redundancy with those core critical systems, just with a data center here and a data center out of state, we're toggling back and forth just as a test with those systems to make sure that both are operable. Also, part of BCP that I think is really important that I've championed, very involved in, is just with the many systems that we do have and really knowing our business, what our commitment, our obligation is to our members, just with system recovery prioritization. We have lots of systems at the credit union. So in really knowing, being able to focus IT on which systems are most critical and which systems really require recovery first, that is something that we're constantly looking at, making sure that we've got good priority, good direction for them. So I can also manage expectations of my business leaders if they have a system that is a lower priority, so they really understand kind of the pecking order, just with that system recovery prioritization. Also with our emergency notification system, just in making sure that we've got a good ENS for employees, we do. And so in keeping that current as part of the divisional BCPs, part of their plans, making sure we've got telephone numbers, contact information that's current for all of our employees, so we can do text messaging just with emergencies. We use that system pretty frequently as we move through Georgia winters, just with inclement weather, with ice, just with the branches. We're constantly using that ENS. So that is certainly part of our BC program. Also, I wanted to touch on just with BCP, when we activate the plan. So if there is a notice of a disruption or a threat, what will happen is that disruption or threat will be reported. It'll be reported up to the divisional leader. Within risk management, just with our BCP program, we do have a business continuity manager that really manages the plan, coordinates everything. So if there is a report of a disruption or a threat, the senior leader will notify the business continuity manager. And then with our plan, just with the criteria, they will do a quick risk assessment on that disruption or threat, really what the impact is. And we have 3 levels just with our crisis management plan, an event that can really be managed divisionally just through standard operating procedures. An incident's a little more serious. It could be managed through the division or multiple divisions. Will take a little longer to resolve. And then there's a crisis. And with either an incident or a crisis, the business continuity manager and the senior leader for the area that is most impacted by the disruption or the threat will determine if they need to call up the crisis management team. If they do need to form the crisis management team, it's the executive of the area that really is most responsible for the issue that will lead the crisis management team. And the crisis management team will consist of the members of the steering committee for BCP and other executive senior leaders as needed. So I'm going to pause there for a second and just see if there's any questions or if that prompted any thoughts.
I don't see any yet, Matthew. Stacy, if you've got some, chime in. If not, we'll save them for the next pause.
No, I'll just say that, I mean, looking at his first slide that he had there, it's amazing to me, everything that they go through. Matthews, for me, my first career was in banking and finance. And so I remember all of the deep thoughts that went into continuity planning. It was very important for us to go through all of this, and everything you have listed here just reminded me of that, of how thorough banking institutions really put into their continuity plans for what might happen even before it happens. And I think working at Alcon today, I think you probably were better prepared than we were. I remember one of the tests that we would go through when I worked at Bankers Trust, which became Deutsche Bank, is that we had an off-site location in a different state that we would literally go through drills and have people from different states meet at their respective airports, and they had chartered jets and fly them to that next state to where we had our backup operations and go through a full plan there. So very excited to see. I didn't realize that smaller banks such as credit unions went through the same thing that most larger banking and financial institutions went through.
Yeah, thank you. And Michael, you know, I said at the beginning that really wanted to keep it conversational. I just always get my energy from others. So I really appreciate your comments. And I don't know if you can see on the corner of my desk here, I have 2 Delta Community Yeti mugs that are very nice mugs that you just won by having the first comment. So I will work with Stacy, and I will make certain that I get those to you.
All right, then.
Hey, Matthew, it's Chris Mixon with Synovus, so you won't have to give me any swag for this question because I won't be able to use it. But I am curious, and I run a big chunk of our operations team at Synovus, so we certainly very familiar with business continuity planning and all of that. I'm curious what your guys' experience was in terms of tabletop exercises that got down. How far down the organization did the business continuity testing go? I think we found that ours reached a certain level of management in terms of depth, But then what I found myself doing through the first few months of the pandemic was a lot of kind of tabletop. As a matter of fact, I called them choose your own adventure meetings every Monday morning with my direct management team to try to say, what are we going to do if this happens? What do we, and so what was the experience that you guys had with that, either kind of within departments or across the organization? I can't say, by the way, everybody at Synovus was doing that, but it was important for our operations team to kind of be looking at that on an ongoing basis throughout the pandemic.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Chris. That's a great question. And also just have so much respect for Synovus. You guys do such a great job. Our journey just with BCP, you bring up a very good point. I think early on with our enterprise exercises, just with senior leaders, we found that it wasn't necessarily being relayed down or, with others being engaged. We've tried many things over the years just with the divisional coordinators for those BCPs, really working that into performance appraisals just to emphasize the criticality of it, the importance of it. That helped a little bit, but I really think just in our having that dedicated, and I'm sure you guys do too, that business continuity manager within our enterprise risk management group whose sole responsibility is managing our BCP plan, those divisional exercises that he leads on a regular basis. So we have the enterprise exercise and it's supplemented by those divisional exercises where it is the full division. So you'll take a group like deposit services or card services and payments, and they will run through a very similar exercise on their own throughout the day that again is evolving to where they have to react to different degrees of severity. So we've really found with those divisional exercises that we run throughout the year that involves the full staff plus the leaders of that division. When the leaders come to the annual enterprise exercise, they're better prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the color.
Okay, good. So I'll move on just with our COVID-19 response plan. And so we really prepared our written plan in February that we submitted to the board. So just as we were really, aware of what was developing, just really watching the news, we put together a written plan in early February. It was really based on our existing crisis management plan and also that exercise that we had gone through in 2018 enabled us to put that plan together. I wrote the plan with our Chief Risk Officer, Bill Buchanan. We were able to put that together for our CEO, took it to the board. And really just the objectives with that plan, first and foremost, just the safety and the health of our employees and our members, but also just in really maintaining operations and really knowing that we have so many members, so many households really relying on us for day-to-day transactions for their personal finance, just really knowing that we had an obligation to continue to keep the business running, keep the lights on no matter what was occurring. And then thirdly, just really with the ongoing viability of the credit union, just with the business reputation, certainly as I'm talking to employees, as I said, employee member health safety is paramount, that's critical. But also, what keeps me up at night, I feel a real responsibility for our 1,140 employees in keeping them gainfully employed and just really with job security. So as we're managing, very tactically day in, day out with the challenges that we have, also making certain that we understand the long term and just really keeping the credit union a going concern. And we can only do that by making sure that we're meeting member expectations and keeping the operations going. So that really just, as we put together that written plan, we actually activated our plan at the beginning of March. You heard me talk on the other slide about our forming a crisis management team. And it always depends on the incident or the crisis, who leads it. So we formed our crisis management team, and I actually lead that team, facilitate the team, along with our Chief Risk Officer as an alternate. And really, I was appointed to facilitate the activity of the team just based on this particular crisis and just the impact it has on operations, the broad impact it has on operations. So that's why I found myself in the role of leading that crisis management team. We have regular meetings, and really just with those regular meetings, we started off in that March timeframe where we're meeting twice weekly. As we moved through March into April, we went to a weekly schedule and have been weekly May through August. We just made another adjustment, so we'll be meeting every other week, but that team comes together just with all 10 executive leaders. We also have our Chief Information Security Officer on the team, the SVP of Branch Delivery and Operations, VP of Marketing, Corporate Communications, and our Business Continuity Manager. So that team comes together, and really with that team, it's overseeing the execution of the plan, but also doing continuous risk assessment and adjustments so we can continue to make adjustments as necessary just based on conditions. Now, I'll talk just briefly at the beginning of the pandemic, just with the branches. So through March, just in continually having to make adjustments, just as there was the beginning of cases in Georgia, as that case count began to rise, just with some guidance from the public health organizations, just from the governor, as we're listening to that very carefully, just with the branches, what we did as it was apparent that this really was going to have impact and be of some duration, we immediately took all of our branches and we divided the teams so we would have redundancy just with each of the branch locations, again, just in making sure that we can maintain operations across all the branch locations. So we divided the teams and really had a team A, team B structure, and they were alternating 1 week on, 1 week off. And we would not cross-pollinate those teams. So just in case there was someone who contracted the virus on one of those teams, we had redundancy and we had a backup. So we could keep that branch running, but also take measures, steps to really protect our employees. So we did that initially just in dividing the teams. As conditions deteriorated further in March, we went on an appointment-only format just with all of our branches. When we did that, we also introduced at the exact same time a scheduling tool. So we were ready. So we had a scheduling tool. So when we went appointment only, just in keeping availability access for members, making sure it was a good member experience, they could go on to the site just with that scheduling tool, and at any of our locations, just be able to go ahead and schedule an appointment if they needed in-person service for a more complex transaction. So we operated in that posture just with those alternating teams, appointment only, all the way through Memorial Day. And so we kept just monitoring conditions, and as we were monitoring conditions, just listening to the public health organizations, the governor, after the governor allowed his shelter-in-place stay-at-home order to expire in April, just with employees and with members, just listening to feedback, gathering feedback from them. And we really saw in May, just with resuming economic activity, there was more and more pressure just in terms of reopening the branches. So after Memorial Day, we were in a position where we could reunite those teams and reopen the branches to walk-in availability, and we've done that. Just as we survey the market, Chris may know as well, but as we survey the market just with our 29 locations, we see about 50-50 in terms of banks, financial institutions that have walk-in availability versus those who are still in some type of restricted posture. I had thought about doing a separate slide on communications. That's been a big part of the responsibility of that crisis management team, just in making certain that we are communicating very proactively, very transparently, just to our employee base, our member base as well. Just for me, in maintaining operations, just so dependent on that front line, and just want to make certain that they feel listened to, feel supported, feel very protected. And so just in making sure that we've got good ongoing communications with them. So the response team does a weekly update, very transparent, just with the issues, the challenges that we're working through. We also report on our quarantines. If we've got any branches or areas on quarantine, I'll talk about that in a minute, just the protocol that we're following there, but we do publish that. We talk about it. Also, you know, with those communications, as I said, just with transparency, really the challenges that we're facing, just with some of the differences of opinions on different topics, just from governmental leaders, the public health organizations, you know, just the pressure that's put on our business. I'm sure it's put pressure on other businesses, many of the professionals on this call, just with face masks. You know, I'll give that as an example. Just the debate with face masks. I mean, just early on, where there really was guidance that you shouldn't be providing face masks, wearing face masks. As you know, that changed. Just with our frontline folks really, you know, wanting us to provide face masks, require face masks. As that guidance changed over time, we certainly adjusted accordingly. But one challenge that we still contend with today is just kind of the different opinions on wearing face masks. We require our employees to wear face masks. We debated just in terms of the branches, would we make it a requirement just with members? And, you know, we really evaluated kind of pros and cons on both sides, and we really landed on not requiring members. We strongly encourage it. We ask for members to wear face masks, but without a state directive, we really feared that in requiring it, we could be putting our front line in a situation where there was a confrontation. And so, you know, that's a concern that we had. There was no easy answer on that. Certainly what we've seen is just over time, we would tell you that it's probably 85%, 90% of the people coming into the branches really are wearing face masks today. Just between the state and municipalities, just with municipalities, cities now being able to enact orders with businesses having to agree to adhere to those ordinances if they want to. We've followed that. So in the communities where we have locations where there is a local face mask ordinance, we're requiring in those locations. But just with communications, just how critical that is, and to be as honest, open as we can be. So again, just with employees, good cadence there, just with weekly communications, certainly with video messaging from our CEO. We're also doing executive branch visits, just making sure that we're out there on the front line as well, really answering questions and listening. Similar strategy plan with members. Also wanted to mention, just under our COVID-19 response plan, just with work at home, just in March, as we really saw this coming and enacted our plan, we, as I said, we have 1,140 employees. We have 70% of our staff working from home today. And so just in our preparing for that, in past years, just investments in technology, certainly had a good virtual private network VPN system in place. We had to expand the capacity of the VPN, but we could do that very quickly. So we expanded the capacity of the VPN to make sure that we could support more people working at home. Also had to deploy laptops to a lot of our employees who have a desktop computer, and IT just in securing those laptops, really deploying those very, very quickly. That was very much needed in our member care center. So we have a call center, which we really call our 30th branch. So we have a call center that operates Monday through Friday and Saturday. We receive about 100,000 calls. Actually, it's over 100,000 calls per month from our membership. That call center has 135 employees, has 105 agents, And just with the hours that it operates, they handle 80% of the call volume each month. We were able to send all of those agents home. So again, just with employee safety, we have 105 agents on the 17th floor of Riverwood 100 in normal times. But just given that environment, just knowing the challenges of trying to maintain that and really protect employees, we saw the need to be able to transition them to work from home. So we were able to do that in about a 4-week time frame, just in really taking those employees, equipping them with laptops and getting them home. And they're still working from home today. And we're actually able to meet all of our service level targets with those individuals working from home. So I would say that was a really big win for us.
So Matthew,
yeah.
With the work from home scenario, are you seeing an increase in employee satisfaction from these call center employees working from home? And do you have any plans to give them additional flexibility in the future, or when things are safe, they'll come back into brick and mortar?
Great question, Rachel. Yes, we are seeing, with Member Care Center and in other areas, I think higher gratification, just, less windshield time, if you will. So, more productivity. So there's a slide in the deck that I'll get to a little later. That's one of the long-term implications that we certainly see. Just really the posture that we're in now with 70% of those employees working from home, we don't necessarily see returning to the way it was. It'll be finding a new normal, right? I know that term's a little hackneyed, but it is trying to find a new normal. And so we're certainly spending time and energy on that topic, but we know on the other side of this, work from home will very much factor into how we operate on a regular basis. So more to come on that.
I think a lot of us are having those very same conversations, and I'm not sure that many have landed on a definitive action or plan, kind of watching how it plays out, but in a very similar spot.
Okay. So when I get to that slide, I'll be curious. I'll share with you our thinking, because it is somewhat nascent. As I said, just from a technical standpoint, we've done it, we've accomplished it, just in terms of getting everyone home. And I'll tell you what we're thinking through and really our approach into permanently operationalizing work from home. And we always talk about, if we're going to do something, we want to make certain that we can be great at it. So really understanding, how, if we're doing this, can we make continuous improvement, enhancement, and really get great at it. So I'll talk about that in just one second. One other thing that I'll mention, just from an operational standpoint for us, as we were able to move administrative support staff home, and also what we did with, the Member Care Center, again, managing the optics of sending 70% of the employee base home when you're still dependent on the front line, and you're still asking the front line to come in every day. And, it's just, you got to find the right balance there. Just, we certainly wanted to talk about the successes there and just, what we were able to accomplish, but you still have 30% of the employee base that you need to come in every day and really be there for members. So just managing that, as I said, managing the order of transitioning to work from home and managing the optics of it as well is just critical. I think we did that well, but it was a real challenge and something we had to pay attention to. Lastly, I'll mention one thing that we did not foresee. I think when we put our plan together, that written plan in February, there's really nothing that we didn't contemplate in terms of things that we've had to contend with. But one opportunity or one means of serving our members that came up is the Paycheck Protection Program. And so just as that was announced, that is something in a remote environment, just getting our lending teams ready to be able to participate in PPP and be able to do that very quickly. We thought that there was a real need for us to offer that just with our small business banking clients. So we did so. We actually did 720 PPP loans totaling about 25 million. But again, that was something that we weren't anticipating that we would have to allocate resources to, but we did, and certainly to the benefit of members. With branches, I talked about just the branch posture and how we kind of evolved it over time, just as we moved through the pandemic. Just as we were in that appointment-only posture, just in really rethinking the branches, and I know many businesses have done this very similarly, just in rethinking through how you manage gatherings, crowd control, really fostering social distancing, other safety measures. So you can see some of the steps that we've taken just with signage, just with floor decals for social distancing, just with stanchions, also with plexiglass dividers, just with face masks for the employees, hand sanitizers. This is retrofitting the 29 branches that we had. Certainly, our experience through this, as we were in the process of working on floor plans designs for Cumming and Douglasville, this really informed what we're doing there in terms of our approach with the teller pods. We don't have traditional teller lines, we have teller pods. And we've liked teller pods because it really does allow for more interaction between the teller and the member, more personable, but in this environment, again, you're closer to one another. So we had to kind of rethink that. Just with our branches, as I said, we're back on walk-in availability. We do about 70,000 branch transactions per week. That was pre-pandemic. We're back to about 90% of that volume just in the branches. We certainly believe that there will be kind of longer term impacts on consumer behavior through this, but we still believe branches will play an important role, and you see us continuing to branch. With our work at home program, and this was Rachel's question, just as we think through the other side of this, when the pandemic does abate and kind of the new normal, we absolutely believe that work at home will factor into it. And so as we discuss, how we want to really approach work at home, the investments that we need to make, we really believe it has to be an enterprise commitment, enterprise approach. So really the objectives with it, employee satisfaction, we really see an opportunity for greater job gratification, employee satisfaction, see the potential for productivity gains, for cost savings, but also as we come up with a longer term plan, making sure it's something that's sustainable and that we can optimize it. I really believe that to institute it, it needs to be owned by HR. We will fill a position in HR to really be our work at home program manager. And really with this position, really making certain that they are working to glean internal best practices as well as external best practices, just with financial services companies across the state nationally and businesses in other industries. So really see this person, HR, really understanding, what's the criteria, what's the eligibility for a position in being able to work at home, making sure that we've got consistency there. And then really understanding this person working with divisional leaders to say, gee, marketing, I see you have most of your employees on work at home, they're eligible for work at home. Jay Rogers with business development, community development, you have fewer, what's the difference? Is there a lesson to be gleaned here or learned and applied to your area? So really working on those internal best practices and really sharing them across divisions. Also just, as we think through it, just, I've got key considerations over here just with kind of engagement, well, both engagement and productivity. As we're talking through it, really thinking through it, just really understand there are certainly things that the company needs to do just from a corporate standpoint as far as investments, but also just with employees, really hearing from employees what they need in terms of real gratification and support. And as we think about the engagement piece, just want to make certain that if we've got employees on work at home, that we can still really manage esprit de corps and culture. I think that really is something that's very strong at Delta Community in terms of, purpose, team spirit, networking, culture. And so making certain that we know how to effectively manage that and keep a positive work culture, collaborative culture in a work at home. So that's not something we've necessarily solved yet, but it's certainly something that we're very mindful of, that we know we need to accomplish. And same with productivity in a work at home environment, just in making certain that we continue to have good accountability just across the enterprise with our teammates and really being able to deliver for our members. As we think about work at home, just with investments, just with technology, I think we're in a good position there, but continuing to evolve that technology. With work at home, just the risks from an information security standpoint, making sure that we understand those, really stay on top of those. And with our existing space, what does that look like 3 years out, 5 years out? As we really think through, if we've got more of the administrative support staff working at home, how do we leverage that office space as we talk about engagement? If we're requiring some type of residency of staff, on a monthly basis, on our quarterly basis, how do you have to retrofit the office space that you have to really support that? So that's certainly something that we're looking at as well. So I'll pause there, see if there are any other thoughts or any other questions as we think about the long-term application of work at home. Hey, Rachel, did that answer your questions, or did that is that similar to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, no, I think it's very similar, and looking at hybrid models and overall productivity and just keeping an eye on it. We're still in kind of a wait and see in some places. We have some of our call center who will be permanent work from home, and then for our sales team, like myself, at least through year end. And then you're spot on that the new normal will probably not be 5 days a week in the office or on the road with the customer in the same way. Virtual meetings are definitely a part of our norm too.
Yeah. Have you or anyone else thought through just with that cultural piece, just with team spirit, esprit de corps, just in collaboration? How do you do that in a remote setting?
So I actually lead a tower for the entire South area on culture, and specifically based on that. How do we utilize Instagram? How do we utilize virtual volunteering? How do we bring them together, on social type of happy hour type calls to make people feel connected the way that they did when they were in the office without physically seeing one another, because we're still not cleared to be face-to-face with customers even. So our people are still living that life, as well as doing virtual schooling like most around the country. So we're doing our best to try to bring them together.
Good. No, thank you for that. Just the last slide that I had, just with video servicing strategy, I've been in banking about 30 years. And I think other bankers or financial services professionals on the call, it's always a cycle of boom and bust just with economic cycles. And so just as we've managed through this, to me, this is different than one of those economic cycles. I mean, this is a systemic shock that really does have implications, kind of impacts on social order. And certainly, I think about 9/11, just I was working at NetBank at the time, and just really some of the paradigm shifts after 9/11, we're coming up on 20 years. And I think, we have to stop and remember what travel was like before 9/11, or security in public spaces, and just really how that changed pretty dramatically and pretty quickly, after 9/11. And I think here with this particular shock as well, you're going to see similar changes just with consumer behavior. So we have a enterprise project governance process where we're always prioritizing the different initiatives, different projects that we have. Like many businesses, just finite resources so much time and so many dollars. And so we have a good project governance process, and we have many projects in queue that are pending. But as this occurred, this shock, we've really been talking about it as leaders and saying, okay, on the other side of this, just with consumer behavior, what does it look like? And, does it affect our business any way? And so just, this call as an example, just, you've seen, mass adoption of Zoom and Teams. And so just with consumers being comfortable, accustomed to video conferencing, you see it with virtual learning, you see it with telehealth. I saw some stats the other day, I think it was less than 1% of the population pre-pandemic were really using telehealth. It's up to 15%. So you see those types of figures and you wonder, okay, what does that mean for financial services? And so we really believe, just with what we've seen with teleconferencing, there are some very clear applications to our business, just in terms of how we see it being incorporated into our business. There are many financial institutions that are using interactive teller machines today. And these are machines where it's a souped up ATM. Basically, it's run in a back office. And, if Matthew goes to the ITM, he can do basically all the transactions he could do with a teller pops up on the screen, and that teller may be in the vault there at that branch, or that teller, he or she may be in a call center somewhere, or could be work from home. A lot of institutions have been using those interactive teller machines to lower headcount and really for operational cost savings, certainly a legitimate application of them. We've not deployed them because our value proposition really is a combination of high touch, high tech, and we see a use for them. But with the pandemic, we really think it should accelerate what we're doing around ITMs. So as we think about video conferencing and video servicing, just the use cases that we see with those ITMs, certainly we can see them as a supplement for our busy locations with peak hours or with after hours. So if Matthew goes into the Stockbridge, Mount Zion branch, a very busy branch for us, if there's a line at the for the tellers, if there's a bank of ITMs, can Matthew walk over to an ITM and use that kind of express and ITM. Also for after hours, we could extend branch hours, and certainly at locations where we don't have a physical presence today. We have a good relationship with UPS, a good relationship with Chick-fil-A. Could we deploy these ITMs on campus there to provide some additional service, some additional convenience to the members we have at those businesses? So really see a good use case there. Also for routine problem resolution. Just if Matthew wants to speak with a member care center agent, really calls into the call center, will this be the next online chat where, on the website, is there an option for me to dial up a member care center agent and speak to them kind of face-to-face over a video conferencing application? We can see that becoming really commonplace. We also see it becoming commonplace for consultative services. So if Alan is doing a large home renovation and Alan really wants to talk to a loan officer about, gee, what are my best options with home equity, that he can, dial up a loan officer and really have a discussion just with his options. So those are the immediate use cases that we see. And so we've developed a plan to really pursue those use cases over the next 18 months to really be able to deliver on those. Still thinking through some of the considerations just in terms of the technology platform that we will use. Is the technology platform that we would use for the ITMs the same that we would use for the other use cases? Perhaps, maybe not. Also just the staffing model with those different use cases. Is it on demand or by appointment? Certainly our thinking just with the use case for the branches for peak and after hours support, it's on demand. For the routine problem resolution with member care center, just if it's within operational hours, probably on demand. Those consultative services probably by appointment. So, again, if Alan wants to talk to a lender, he's able to go on, schedule a face-to-face discussion, but it would be by appointment. Also figuring out kind of the staffing model for that. Is it centralized? Is it decentralized? Do you have them sitting in at each of the branches, or are they at one call center? Is it work from home? Still need to figure that out, and also kind of the service standards with it as well, just from a branding standpoint. Certainly, just with the uniforms that we have in our branches, is it similar? Just if someone is manning that channel in terms of video conferencing, what's the service standard there as well? And so, very much like the just project governance, just in understanding how do we prioritize the allocation of time investments to these different use cases and different opportunities. But just wanted to share that with you because we see this as a real outcome of this current crisis, this current shock, and we want to make certain the Delta community is leading in this area and does not fall behind the trend on this, because we think it will change consumer behavior.
Well, if there's anybody that knows consumer behavior, I can tell you it's Matthew Shepard. We're getting close to the end of the hour, so I don't want to cut anybody off, but I do want to make a couple of quick comments. Matthew already confessed he's been in banking 30 years. I've known him all of those 30 years. I knew him when he was at NetBank. Back what you have in every financial institution today is internet banking. Matthew actually pioneered that with the very first financial institution to do internet banking. Again, from my personal experience, I've been around Matthew long enough to know that he's a pioneering leader. His headlights shine way down the road on bright, and he's one of the few guys that can see around corners as far as where banking needs to go. He's been a super student of consumer behavior, and what he's put together for financial institutions has certainly met the challenge. What you guys got today, a lot of consultants charge a lot of money for a great plan, but what you've seen Matthew and his team do is do a greater job of executing that plan. The templates that you've got from Matthew really apply to every business that opens its door to a customer, and it's what you do when the unplanned happens. So Matthew, I can't thank you again enough for your information, and a special thanks to Delta Credit Union for being a member of our Chairman Circle and also a valuable and very important part of the North Fulton community. I want to take one point of personal privilege. There's well over 100 Chairman's Club members, and it's very gratifying to have an opportunity to recognize your newest Chairman's Club members, Sean and Kathy Murphy from Summit Counseling Services. So when you get a chance to see them, thank them for joining our ranks. And Sean and Kathy, I know you're on the call today. What you see today, what you heard today is an example of what you get as a Chairman's Club benefit. So thank you for joining us today. The Gwinnett Greater North Fulton Chamber of Commerce Chairman Circle is a very influential part of the chamber, and we value your partnership and your significant investment. So there is more to come, and based on what Matthew just whet the appetite with, there may be a reason for phase 2 of hearing more from Matthew. So thank everybody for attending. It's 1:02. I wish we didn't have to adjourn, but I'm afraid it's time. Matthew, thank you again.
Thank you, Alan. Bye, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Fantastic job. Great presentation. Thanks.
Yeah. Awesome.
Excellent job.
Thanks, Stacy.
Sure.
Hey, Stacy, thank you for agreeing to just give me a minute. Can you hear me okay? Is Matthew still on the line?
Yep, we're still here.
Okay, if you guys would just, can you put Matthew's screen on with you, or will I have to do this separately?
Yeah, let's see. Hold on.
I just want to get a nice screenshot. Why don't you give me a nice big smile, Stacy, and then I'll edit them together.
Hold on. Okay.
Oh, that's good. Just hold real still. This takes just a second for it to capture, okay? Okay, I got Stacy. Now if I can get Matthew, that would be fantastic.